You know, we all face them. Those moments in life that just feel like impossible walls, total dead ends, or, let's be honest, just plain unfair setbacks. It doesn't matter who you are, life is going to throw obstacles your way. But what if those obstacles, what if they weren't the end of the road? What if they were the road? That's the core idea we're going to dive into today, a philosophy that has the power to totally transform how you look at every single challenge you face.
And this incredible idea, it comes to us from almost 2,000 years ago, from a Roman emperor of all people, Marcus Aurelius. And listen, this is way more than just a clever little phrase. This is a profound operating system for your life, especially for navigating those really difficult moments. It's the big idea we're going to unpack today, this timeless art of turning any trial, any adversity, into a genuine triumph.
So, here's the journey we're about to go on together. First, we're going to acknowledge that struggle is just part of the deal. Then, we'll dive right into that radical Stoic idea of flipping obstacles on their head. From there, we'll actually bridge that ancient wisdom with modern psychology, looking at the traits of a truly resilient mind. We'll even equip ourselves with a practical toolkit for problem solving. And finally, we'll tap into our ultimate internal power, the power of will.
Okay, let's start by just getting real about a fundamental truth. Life is absolutely full of twists and turns. It's a shared human experience, right? Sometimes it's smooth sailing, and other times, well, it feels like it's been specifically designed to knock us completely off balance.
You know the feeling? It's like you're at bat, you're ready for a fastball right down the middle, and instead life throws you this wicked curveball you never, ever saw coming?
Or maybe other times you're just trying to keep the ship steady, and then suddenly you feel like you've been thrown overboard into these choppy, totally unfamiliar waters. And then there are those moments you're just thrown for a loop, a sudden change that leaves your head spinning. These feelings are universal. So the big question is, what do we do about them?
And that brings us to the absolute heart of this whole thing, a truly radical shift in how we see those very obstacles. So instead of seeing them as purely negative events that just stop us in our tracks, we can learn to see them as something else entirely.
So the ancient Stoics had these three key disciplines. And the first one, and honestly it's arguably the most important, is perception. The idea is simple but so powerful. We don't control what happens to us, but we have absolute control over how we interpret what happens. That event, it isn't inherently good or bad, it just is. Our perception is the lens that colors it, and that lens can either be our greatest weakness or our most powerful source of strength.
Okay, check this out, because this slide lays out the two paths our perception can take so clearly. Over on the left, you've got subjective perception. This is our default, right? Our emotional gut reaction. We get angry, we get scared, we panic. And this way of seeing things, it only adds to our troubles. But on the right, you have objective perception. Now, this is a trained response. It's calm, it's clear-eyed, and it just sees the situation for exactly what it is. And that, right there, is where all our strength lies.
All right, so seeing things objectively is the goal. Awesome. But how do we actually do that? Especially when we're feeling stressed or completely overwhelmed. Well, this is where modern psychology gives us a fantastic blueprint. We can actively cultivate a resilient mindset. Think of resilience as a psychological muscle that allows us to bounce back, to adapt, and to even thrive when we're facing adversity.
So research shows that people who successfully navigate challenges, they tend to share these 9 traits. And what's so empowering about this is that these are not genetic gifts. These are skills that any of us can build. For example, they practice positivity, not by ignoring reality, but by actively looking for the opportunity inside the setback. They accept change because they know that fighting against the inevitable is just a waste of energy. And crucially, they learn to emotionally regulate. Let's zoom in on that one for a second.
I absolutely love this quote because it just perfectly captures what emotional regulation is all about. An obstacle shows up and you better believe emotions are going to show up with it. Anger, fear, frustration. The key is to see them as temporary visitors. You acknowledge them, sure. Maybe you even listen to what they have to say, but you don't give them a permanent room key. You don't let them take over the entire hotel. And this gets us to the practical skill behind that objective perception we were talking about. Emotional regulation is the ability to feel an emotion without letting it dictate what you do next. It's that pause, that tiny little space between the stimulus, the obstacle, and your response. That pause is where your power is. It lets you see the situation clearly, not through a fog of fear or anger, and to choose a deliberate, constructive path forward. Now, another huge piece of this puzzle is self-reflection. The source material uses this great metaphor. You know how to swim, but do you know how to float? In our busy lives, we are always swimming forward, right? From one task to the next. Self-reflection is the act of floating, of just being still, reconnecting with ourselves, and actually processing what's happened. It's in those quiet moments that we really learn from our experiences, understand ourselves better, and build the self-awareness we need to face the next challenge with a clear head.
Okay, so we've established the right mindset, that resilient, objective perception. But mindset needs a method, right? It's only half the battle. When an obstacle appears, you need a practical framework to actually deconstruct it and find the way through. So let's look at two really powerful toolkits for doing exactly that.
First up, we've got a structured approach that's perfect for those big, complex challenges. Let's say your company's sales are dropping. You'd start by clearly defining that problem, then you break it down. Is it a marketing issue, a product issue, a sales team issue? You prioritize, you form a hypothesis, like, hey, maybe our new ad campaign isn't working. And then you use data, not just a gut feeling, to test it. It's a really rigorous, logical path through the fog of a complex problem.
Now, our second tool, root cause analysis, is all about digging deeper. It's about making sure the same problem doesn't just keep happening again and again. The key here is this awesome little technique called the 5 whys. So a customer complains about a late delivery. Why was it late? Well, the truck left late. Okay, why? The package wasn't ready. Why? The order was processed late. Why? There was a system bug. And why was there a bug? Because a recent software update had a flaw. You see that? You've moved right past the symptom, the late truck, to find the root cause you can actually fix for good.
So the really crucial point here is knowing which tool to use for which job. And this slide gives us a super simple guide. If you're dealing with a recurring, nagging problem like that late delivery, root cause analysis is what you need. It stops you from just putting a Band-Aid on the issue. But if you're facing a huge, multi-layered, strategic challenge, like those dropping sales, then that comprehensive McKinsey framework is going to help you navigate the complexity without getting lost.
So we've covered perception, our mindset. We've covered action, our toolkit. But there's one final, absolutely essential element. What happens when the obstacle is truly out of our control? When our perception is clear, but our tools are useless, and our ability to act has all but disappeared. This is where we rely on our final trump card, the stoic discipline of will. Will is that part of you that can never, ever be touched by external events. It is your inner fortress. No matter what happens, a career setback, a health crisis, a personal loss, your will is the power to endure, to accept, and to find meaning in it. It's that profound understanding that while you may not control the situation, you always, always control your response to it.
Now, this is a really important distinction. We often think of will as just brute force. You know, the will to win, gritting our teeth and pushing through no matter what. But the Stoics saw it completely differently. True will isn't brittle. It's flexible. It's not about defiance. It's about acceptance. It's the art of acquiescence, of gracefully yielding to what you simply cannot change, and doing so with dignity and even cheerfulness. It's a quiet humility and a deep, unshakable resilience. And this brings us right back to where we started. With the right perception, we see the obstacle not as a roadblock, but as a new path. With the right action and the right tools, we can navigate that path effectively. And with will, we have the endurance to keep going, no matter how tough the terrain gets. This is the ultimate transformation. The thing that was blocking you becomes the very thing that moves you forward.
So the next time life throws that curveball, or throws you overboard, I'm going to leave you with this question to think about. Will you let your subjective emotions create a barrier that just stops you in your tracks? Or will you use objective perception, a resilient mindset, and the power of your will to see what stands in the way as the way?